Potential Tropical Cyclone 2 still likely to intensify late this week. So it's still without a name, but it's been gathering strength, maybe a little bit. Certainly been gathering attention in the last few days at 11.6 north, 69 degrees west, and has now sparked off hurricane watches for parts of Central America. Here it is right now with 40 mph winds at 65 km/h sustained, with a pressure of 1009 millibars, still moving nearly due west at 21 mph as of 6 p.m. US Eastern Time, which is also 6 p.m. in Caracas, Venezuela. The storm, which it is of storm strength, is expected to continue westwards. It's just not yet reached the criteria to become a tropical storm and get its name. Northern sides have 60 miles worth of tropical storm force winds there, and the southern side is devoid of those winds, sort of as you would expect really. It is currently 51 kilometers from Curacao, 123 from Aruba, 298 from Maracaibo, 627 from Barranquilla, and 1344 from Providencia. Hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings are in effect for many areas, as you can see on our bottom ticker there, mainly for those islands and for Venezuela and Colombia. Hurricane watches and tropical storm watches have now been issued for parts of Costa Rica and Nicaragua. The primary hazard right now is probably flash flooding from convective thunderstorms and squally showers associated with the system right now, and this is likely to occur mainly across the ABC Islands, Colombia and Venezuela in the next 24 hours. There is possibility for tropical storm force winds on the ABC Islands in that time period as well. In fact, it's likely, so that is also a particular risk at this time. So here it is, and the forecast over the next few days. Fast movement there, as you can see, towards the late week, and then making landfall. Looks like it's near the border between Costa Rica and Nicaragua, and then into the weekend and into next week. The storm continues into the East Pacific and could become a hurricane there. That's currently what the National Hurricane Center is predicting. It's been a while since we've had a proper crossover storm like this, and I'm sure it reminds a lot of people of good old Cesar Douglas in 1996. Currently though, maximum sustained winds 40 mph, National Hurricane Center is indicating. ADT from NOAA slightly less at 39 mph, and ASCAT not with it at the moment, probably because the storm is too coastal for it to be of any use. And there is also the National Hurricane Center forecast cone for reference, with that little pink area being the hurricane watch. And this is the chance of tropical storm force winds in the next 5 days. You'll see the orange and golden areas there. It's around 40 to 50% chance for Nicaragua, so it's by no means set in stone just yet, but those chances are rising. Over the islands right now, Bonaire and Curacao, very high chances, as you'd expect. GFS model shows this over the next few days. The system ploughing through there and really getting sat together once it moves into the Eastern Pacific. GFS may be not so hot with that initial part of the storm there, only just possibly reaching tropical storm status before actually making landfall. Circulation was just not there till the last minute. I think it just about does make it, and a very bona fide tropical storm hurricane there in the Eastern Pacific on the longer range, which is interesting from the GFS. Here's the water vapor mock-up, showing that just how much water vapor is in the atmosphere around that storm, and it builds up quite a lot before its landfall and remains very potent through the Eastern Pacific, although small throughout its whole period there of development, and really looking good on that final frame. Just watch again the early part here, getting its act together near the coast of Nicaragua. The northern side appears to be very much the wetter side of this, and extending outwards a lot further than it is on the southern side, but Costa Rica could still expect several inches of rain. As Speaking of which, let's take a look at the rainfall charts, and you can see what occurs in the next 7 days according to the GFS model. Those red zones, those are areas of significant rainfall amounts, about 10 inches or so in those areas. You can see a few greens and yellows around where the storm currently is, not a huge amount, 3 to 4 inches more than what we've already seen. And then take a look at some of those values. 15 inches there in one isolated spot on the Costa Rica and Nicaragua border. I think that might be just on the Costa Rica side. Yep. So very high amounts of rain possible for a few localized areas, although it could be worse looking at that in terms of aerial coverage. Sea surface temperatures are not going to be an issue. It's the least of this storm's problems, I would say, out of anything, any parameter. Temperatures are remaining comfortably in the 27 to 28 degrees Celsius range. And to be honest, probably the most prime area for tropical storm development this early in the season, which it is still quite early. And certainly favourable chances for a crossover storm. It's so rare, and yet this one might demonstrate just how easy it can be when the conditions set up right. So let's take a look at the satellite imagery of this potential tropical cyclone, and you can see there on the visible imagery, which is fading away at the end, not that the cloud tops are diminishing, it's just the trick of the light there, but you can see the general pattern of this storm, which it is a storm with tropical storm force winds, but not yet with a fully established centre or convective cloud tops over the centre, and it's still sprawled out over a large part of the eastern Caribbean. But there's the visible imagery. The leading edge of it is already passing through the border to Colombia now, but the centre of this storm is still not too far from Curacao. Still moving gradually towards the west at a decent pace still, of course a little bit slower than it used to be. Let's take a look at some other types of imagery. This is the derived RGB showing the infrared overlaid on top of the visible imagery, and you can see how it's been progressing there. And actually it's not just the trick of the light, the convection has been disappearing a little bit near where this potential centre is, but convection staying strong on the northeastern side, quite visible there. Let's take a look at the water vapor imagery, and we can see how moist this thing is, and it's still looking decent in the central areas. A little bit of dry air out west, but it's nowhere near as bad as what's over there towards the east, out towards the open Atlantic. And this system has got a fighting chance of developing quite substantially before reaching its landfall point in Central America. Let's have a look and see if there's any other kinds of infrared that we can look at right now. There's this one, which is a common channel, showing once again still diminishing a little bit there on that imagery, although you can see just that little bit of a convective blow up near what we think is the center. And I think this is going to be just a temporary thing here, and I think it will be looking much better tomorrow. Just trying to see if there's any other imagery that we can show just now. There isn't really, so I will leave it with the true color imagery that we had earlier. If it loads properly, there it is. And that's how this storm is looking right now. Still not with a name, it's nameless, but it is still dangerous, with hurricane watches now in effect for potential tropical cyclone 2.